Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast here in Deep, Texas. I asked somebody else to do a yeehaw. Is that appropriate? You guys yeehaw, guys?
I mean, we don't, but, you know, people from outside of Texas coming in, it makes them feel good. So go ahead and let her rip, Shannon.
I think I love your spin. I love what you did there. You're a pretty good sales guy.
You know, me and Mark probably wouldn't say yeehaw.
I will do a yeehaw because it's a really good suggestion, Travis. But I got to tell you, as an out-of-stater, I'm not really familiar with how they sound. But if you'll give me some guides to go off of.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. All right, baby. 3, 2, 1. Yeehaw!
I like it. Well, I imagine Texans are like, all these silly Northerners coming down here always wanting us to do these Texas things like yeehaw gets owed. But I guess it's just the status quo.
Well, your plates aren't from California, right, Mark? As long as our plates aren't from California, we're fine.
Okay, I got you. I bet you're getting a lot of transplants coming in.
We do get a good number of those.
Yeah, so let's start over here. Mark, you want to introduce yourself, your business, a little bit about who you are and what you do, sir.
Yes, I'm Mark Miller from here, Lott, Texas, owner of Sunview Builders. We build mostly metal siding, storage buildings, greenhouses, horse barns, chicken coops, that kind of thing. And, you know, we deliver throughout all of Central Texas.
Perfect. Yeah, Lott, Texas. I love it down here. It's I don't know, it's my third or fourth time, I think, being down here. The other voice on here you guys may recognize for those of you who are watching.
Sorry about your luck today, guys. It's me again, Margaret.
But for those of you who are listening, this is the trusty, I don't even know what we would say, like co-host, occasional co-host, what you do here, but it's a much appreciated, and you always add value to the show. And when we're in Texas, why would I not reach out to Travis Beachy and have him on the show? But you can still do a formality if you want. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, it's always fun to be on the show. It's always fun to chat it up, you know? I mean, we literally just got done talking for like 2 hours before we got on here. So sometimes me and Shannon get on the phone and we're like, man, we should have threw a mic on that conversation. But yeah, it's always great conversation. Excited to chat with Mark today. Mark builds the metal. We sell the metal sheds that Mark builds. We're one of their retail partners. The greenhouses, the loafing sheds, our clients love. So Mark's our awesome dude to work with, and love what he's done here with Sunview. You know, he's really poured his heart and soul into it. So excited for you guys to hear his story a little bit more. But yeah, I own Farm and Yard. My wife and I own Farm and Yard just up the road from here in Robinson. Been doing that since 2016, and we're a sales and retail outlet. So we don't manufacture anything. We work with some great partners, and we are all we do all day, every day is sales, marketing, and design.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And retail.
Do a great job too. Like you've got like a really strong social media presence, and like, I don't know, I just feel like that's awesome. And it's just almost necessary in today's landscape.
It is.
It
is.
Yeah. So
yeah, thankfully for me, I enjoy it. There's, you know, not everybody enjoys it. Other people are stronger in other parts of the business. And I guess I got lucky that I enjoy that part. You know, I have been in the, you know, delivery side of things, the manufacturing side of things, the delivery side of things, man. I mean, Mark, I know you've delivered sheds before, and I'm curious. I want to ask you then how you're liking this role compared to delivery. But man, delivery is not for me. The delivery side of the things is not for me. Manufacturing would probably be second on my list, but the sales and marketing side of the industry is definitely number one for me. I enjoy that part of the industry the most.
Yeah, those shed haulers work just every day, all day. So, Mark, let's start from the beginning. Tell me your story, man. How did you come across sheds? Were you just starry-eyed 10-year-old saying, I want to build sheds when I grow up for a living, or how did it happen?
No, for the most part, I mean, many years I knew nothing about the shed industry. I was born in Honduras, spent my first 8 years of my life there. Then we lived for 4 years in Tennessee before moving back down to Nicaragua. And I lived 13 years there. That's where I got married. My wife is from there. And I moved back here to Lott, Texas when I was 25 years old, and came here working at Sunview Builders, working for my brother-in-law, building sheds. And so that's kind of where I got into it. And since 2011, for the most part, I've been in the shed industry. I've dabbled in about every aspect of it. I built here for a while. I did some deliveries, then went to work for another company where I worked in the office. I did purchasing, I did driver management, and learned a lot more of the administration part of the shed business. During that time, I also owned 2 of the delivery trucks working for that same company. And so I didn't do as many of the deliveries myself, but I owned trucks that were doing the deliveries, and I had 2 drivers working for me. So, it's just been involved in almost every aspect. So when I came back here to work for my brother-in-law again, I felt a little bit more equipped to look at the whole, manage the whole thing, because I had gotten a lot of experience in basic every aspect of it.
The purchasing side, man, that's a beast. That's where I started. And, yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot that people don't realize. I think, especially the larger the company gets, the more intense it gets. Ironically, one of my friends is over, transportation. So I was looking to move into that department back when I got started. I said that was my introduction to the shed industry. We always saw them growing up. They were around, but to know the details and the inner details and like how to operate, it becomes a whole new beast.
Yeah.
And yeah, you learn a lot just sitting there purchasing and doing like the transportation stuff. There's a lot to it. So now you guys do metal buildings. You got this beautiful shop here. Yeah, I'm kind of curious at like, what's it been like? What's the experience been like? If you had to explain to somebody on a podcast that was listening, what would you tell them your experience has been jumping into the shed business?
So for me, right here, building just metal siding sheds, it's been a little bit simpler, sticking to one line like that, not having to deal with, the paint bay and then roofing, more a 3-step process of it. So that has been, we initially, we had a lot smaller shop. And so we didn't have much room to move around. And so that was what we did. And I've kind of stuck with that up till now. And I've been blessed to have this opportunity because, some things happened through the years, and we had been on the mission field for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020 in El Salvador. And so coming back from I ended up over COVID, some things that happened with the business I had going, and so I ended up having to start over. And my brother-in-law gave me the opportunity to start here with him back in the beginning of 21, and it's been a very, very good opportunity I've had so far.
Nice.
What I got to say, I mean, opportunities are all what we make of them, and we had been working with your brother-in-law before you came on board, and I mean, you really just dug in, and I feel like you're doing a good job making the most of the opportunity. So cheers to you on that.
Appreciate that.
He mentioned something too. If you really think about the dynamic of it, he's not doing wood buildings. So the process could be a little simpler, but then when you think about all the things that surround itself with that, the shed industry's gotten big, right? So it's like painted buildings, wood buildings, but then post frame, and then how they almost cross path with like carports, and like how does the public view a steel square tubed garage that's on site built versus a platform that's movable and supportable. But the public doesn't really notice a lot of that as much. They just kind of see buildings. We internalize that in the shed industry, but I've heard people call like pole barn sheds.
Yeah.
So like sometimes we'll limit ourselves in our terminology or whatever, but like how does that give you like different growth opportunity if you're doing metal? Like maybe you have one here, but like do you bend the metal? Do you bring the coils in? Are you interested in like going to that level? What's your thoughts for future growth? Hey, Deanna, I need to write a new ad for Shed Hub. Give me some ideas.
Why don't you do something catchy like the insurance commercials do all the time, where they just repeat the same thing over and over?
Like a little jingle or something like that.
Yeah,
But wouldn't that be embarrassing?
that is kind of the point.
What type of music?
Try rap.
Shed Hub helps you sell shed.
Maybe country.
Shed Hub helps you sell sheds.
Rock and roll.
Shed Hub helps you sell sheds.
Maybe just go back to your normal writing style.
Shed Geek and Shed Hub are now collaborating to make for a better customer experience. I want to save you some money. Shed Hub is focused on signing up the next 500 customers. We're calling it the Next 500 Plan.
Real creative.
You think it'll help if I sing again?
I'd rather you not.
Well, that makes two of us.
So what's the next 500 plan?
The Next 500 Plan is simple. This will include 100 listings per month, per location, along with the Brand Builder website. And the plan will last for 1 full year.
But how do they save money?
It only costs $39 a month. There's never been a better time to sign up. Just go to geek.shedhub.com, click subscribe, enter your name, email, and payment information, and you will be contacted by a Shed Hub employee to get you onboarded for just $39 per month. Shed Hub helps you sell shit.
So right now, our volume doesn't support, going into that part of it as much. So we buy all our metal from a local supplier.
Gotcha.
One of the things I have noticed here in Texas, you have a lot of people go with steel structures, and so
Steel's big here.
Steel is big, and so I see an opportunity there. Most other manufacturers, they build wooden buildings, and then on the side they do a
Add-on. It's an add-on product.
It's an add-on product.
Yeah.
They have a couple, not as much of their main offering, and so it's mostly just. And if you look at most of the manufacturers, it's the economy metal shed. That's what most companies offer, and so for us, we're offering that as our main product, and trying to target that market of people that want it to match their steel structure shed. And, barn dominiums and stuff like that people are doing, a metal shed goes right along with that.
For sure. It seems big, doesn't it, anymore? The barndos, like you just hear it more and more often. And I bet in Texas, where everything's bigger, you probably got guys down here that want to do that. So what do you do with the metal buildings? You guys go up to large sizes? Are they odd sizes compared to much of the country?
No, we go, our largest that we have done right now is up to a 16 by 52.
Okay.
So we go 8 by 8 all the way up to 16 by 52. We any size in between there.
What are some challenges with that, Mark, in building, a metal building that big with loading, unloading off the trucks? You got to worry about the metal crinkling. You have to reinforce a building differently than the wood painted shed guys.
Yeah, we do. So there is a little bit more to where as you pick it up from one end, it will want to crinkle the metal a little bit. We combat that by on the larger buildings. We go and we put a strip of we use our flooring. So we don't normally have OSB because we don't use it in any of our building product. We're not
putting purlins on the rafters.
Purlins on the rafters. So we're not using OSB. So we just use our flooring, ProStruct flooring, and we cut a 2-foot strip of that, and we put that on the wall on the bottom side. Since we have purlins going horizontally, it fits right in between there, and that gives us the added strength on the bigger buildings to prevent that crinkling like that.
Very neat. How do you negotiate that as a manufacturer, figuring out your builds? Do you work with engineers? Is this something that you do internally? Is this something you just learned over time how to do? How does that process come about on creating the actual design?
Most of that is just we've learned and we've done, and trial and error more than anything.
One day you take a building out and that sucker's crinkling up the metal and you got to go do a repair.
Yeah.
And you said, boys, we ain't doing that again.
Yeah. We need to figure something out. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, I think trial and error is it's the best teacher, isn't it? Like that experience that you get in any capacity. That's the way you learn, and it can be costly.
Well,
unfortunately,
you know, I don't know if it's Mennonite or whatever, but you know, if at first you don't succeed, then get out the instruction manual, right?
Yeah.
So you try everything first before you go to anything like that.
It might just be a guy thing here.
I
A
was
bunch of
about to
dudes
say,
sitting around here.
I think that's a
You
guy
know,
thing.
All the ladies that are listening are like, yeah, you know, if you guys just read the instructions.
Well, that's what we do at my house. Like if we get something that has instructions, I immediately am like, just let me just stay here until she starts reading it.
Yeah.
Because it's like foreign language for me. I'm like, I'm just going to start, look, there's enough things here to screw together. I'm going to start putting stuff together.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Mark,
yeah.
what's been the did you have another thought?
No, go ahead. Go for
Mark,
it.
what's been the talk to? There's a segment of people out there that might be listening that might be where you were a couple years ago, where they have some other experiences in the industry. Maybe they've sold sheds before, they've hauled before, and they're really contemplating making that jump into manufacturing. They want to manufacture their own line of sheds. It's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Scary thing, big investment, a lot
Yeah.
of risk. What's some tips? What's one thing that you look back and you're like, man, that really helped me go for it? Or what's some things that you could share with that person?
It is a big step. You know, when you deliver a shed, you have one job. You deliver that shed. When you're in charge of purchasing, you're in charge of purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a one-man shop. For the most part here in the office, I do have someone that helps me now with marketing and doing sales here at the office. And I do have a separate sales team apart from that. But everything else, I'm in charge of everything. So I'm in charge of purchasing. I'm in charge of sales. You know, handling customer complaints, handling repairs, all of that. And you get into it and you find out there's a lot of moving parts to it. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. You know, if you've done one part of it, and I've heard it recently, I think on another episode of this about somebody saying, oh, well, you know, the salespeople, they just sit at the lot all day and you know, they're making the big bucks. And you, so, you know, Travis here, he's making the big bucks. Yeah. And the delivery guy, like he's out there, you know.
The drivers are always showing off how much money they're making with their trucks.
Well, yeah.
So you're like, man, these boys are raking it in.
They're making all the money,
maybe
right?
I'll get out there in the truck.
But you're only looking at one aspect of it.
That's right.
Now, as an owner, you have to kind of pull everything. And so it does take a little bit. So, I mean, one thing I will say, you know, my wife has supported me in this.
It's amazing.
And, you know, having someone behind you saying, you know, I support you. Let's do this. This is for the family. This is for the dreams we have. This is for, you know, it takes a lot of dedication, you know. When I was working for somebody else, my hours were 8 to 5.
Yeah. Say goodbye to that when you're in your own business, man.
Oh, man.
Those days are over.
Now, you know, I'll show up sometimes at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I've got things I got to do. I've got taxes to file. I've got payroll to run. I've got, you know, all that. And so, and then, you know, my wife's waiting for me for dinner at 6:30 and they're like, why haven't you showed up yet? You know, there's a lot of that goes into it that you don't think about when you're just paid to do one job.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really good word. Anybody who's ever worked a job is like, hey, I clocked out, I'm gone for the weekend. Like, I don't know when I'm working and not working. Like a lot of times it can become a bit of a conflict because you're like, man, a lot of times I feel like I'm just socializing or being friends with someone. And then I realize maybe I am working or there's an aspect of work that I'm doing here. And I don't know how you break that down, but you wear a lot of hats as a business owner.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to scale, you have to start putting your trust into others to do that work. And let's just be honest, they may get away from your vision. They may not do things like you do things. And the vision, you know, gets lost a little bit as you grow.
Yeah.
and hire those people into those different positions. So there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. You know, I don't consider myself a salesperson. I would say
self-awareness.
I would say I hate sales, but I have to sell sheds in order to build them. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the first things here. You know, at first I was doing all the selling. We had some dealer locations, but doing that, and you need to do marketing, of which I knew nothing. Well, I thought I knew something, but find out how little you actually know. Yeah. And so I've had to work through a lot of that and learn a lot of that. And, you know, that's taken a lot, you know, getting into that and learning what it takes, learning different systems, learning how to motivate other people. So at this point, we've narrowed it down to mostly just farm and yard as an outside sales location. I do have some others that we build wholesale for, and they buy them wholesale. They take care of the sales, the delivery, and all that on their own. But other than that, we've been doing it in a different way. I've started a second company called Sheds Marketplace, and that is for the online sales. And so for that, I have a team of people helping me with that.
Hello, shed sellers. Let's take a moment to discuss the shed customer and meeting their expectations. I remember growing up in the neighborhood where a certain percentage of the houses had well-manicured lawns and well-manicured homes. These were the type of individuals who felt it was important to purchase a well-constructed home or vehicle, or maybe equipment to help maintain the quality of the item. As shed manufacturers, we seek to provide a well-built quality shed. We want the customer to feel satisfied that their hard-earned money has been well spent on a product that will last. At LuxGuard, we believe adding high-quality rubber flooring to your line of sheds makes sense to the customer and adds value the customer can appreciate. With each year, sheds are becoming more complex. The customizations we are seeing are virtually endless. LuxGuard not only gives a complimentary aesthetic appearance for their shed, but also protects the floor from spills and keeps cleanup simple. Offer your customer the customer service they seek with LuxGuard. At LuxGuard, we are committed to delivering exceptional customer service and innovative products to help our customers achieve their goals. We strive to meet the evolving needs of the customers. To speak with one of our ready-to-serve customer product specialists, simply call 336-468-4311. To see our product and view an installation video, just visit our website at luxguard.com. LuxGuard, the floor that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah, tell us more about that, Mark.
So this goes back to, you know, when we were on the mission field we were in El Salvador in 2018, 2020, and kind of where some of this started. I have family there as well. My oldest brother lives there. He's been living in El Salvador for the last 20 some years. And so my oldest nephew is there. And when we started this, I looked at him and said, "Hey, do you want to learn how to sell sheds?" Like, I don't know, but we can learn together. And so we started that. And so part of what we've done, beginning of last year, we were right at a year now that we opened up an office in El Salvador. And so I have hired now, we're going to have 4 people working for me in El Salvador.
Very neat.
All English-speaking people. That's, you know, there was some trial and error there with some people that I had hired initially that ended up figuring out that, you know, the level of English is very important when speaking to customers. And so that's something we've worked on, and I feel very good with the team we have now. And so growing that is a big part of where is going to be the future for our company here, is growing that aspect of the sales, the online sales.
That's awesome. And you said trial and error, you know, I mean, yet again, it becomes a real process as you setting up processes and systems to try and figure it out.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate some of the things you said there. You said, you know, as Travis said, to have the self-awareness to say, wait a minute, maybe I'm not the sales guy for the company, and I recognize my deficiencies there. So am I going to work on those, or am I going to bring someone in to establish? How important has that process played for you? Has it been more beneficial? And if you're not the sales guy, but you own the company, how do you negotiate that with a sales guy? Like, does he come in and say, "Hey, I'm calling the shots," and you're like, "No, you're not," but you are here to help me with sales. Like, how do you work that relationship?
So that has taken some. We've gotten some sales training and sales coaching, and I am on those calls with my team almost every week. And since I'm not selling as much, I'm not practicing what we're learning every day, but yet I'm taking in most of the same content that they are. So, I say, I don't know how to do it, but I know how to tell you how to do it.
How you should be. I know how to hold you accountable.
And so I just spent all of last week in El Salvador with my team down there, going over certain processes, correcting some things, motivating them, and looking at how certain things are done. And hey, I think here you need to make a change, tweaking some of that, because they'll get carried away on their own way of doing things and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm not gonna, if I start trying to role play with you, you're going to beat me, because I'm going to be at loss because I'm not doing it every day. But yet when I'm listening to you do it, then, I like, hey, you should have done a little bit different here. You should have asked a different question here. Those are kind of things that you learn even if you don't practice them every day. So, I can still tell them what to do.
Yeah. Well, you are signing their check, right?
Yeah, I do.
So tell me about how that, let's go into just a little bit of sales talk here for the salespeople that are listening. Tell me how that goes. How are these people? They're in El Salvador. Obviously, they're not taking walk-in customers. It's just all online leads. What does that flow look like? How are you getting the leads? How are they contacting the customer? Are they? Is it all text message, email, phone call? What are they doing if a customer says, "Hey, can you come out and look at my property? Hey, can I come by and look at some sheds? Where are you located?" Mm-hmm. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so there's some challenges with that, absolutely, because it's not like when you have the customer right in front of you. Yeah, and so the one thing is the processes to make sure that you can get a quote to the customer easily, you can get them to sign the document easily, you can collect their down payment easily. Those are all things that you have to ensure you have a good flow to it, to not make it too difficult for the customer on that part. But for, as far as getting leads, we do Google ads, Facebook ads, and we collect a lot of those leads both on Facebook directly or through our website. And so that's how most of that comes in. And then we do texting, calling, email. That has been one of the things, trying to figure out a phone service that texts well, where you can share images easily. A lot of that, trying to integrate it with the CRM and trying to find something that works all together. I mean, I've spent too many hours working on that, and it's still not exactly where I want it to be as far as integrating and having all that information everywhere. But texting has been one of the number one things that you have to have, because there are customers that have never answered the phone, right? But they purchased a shed. Yeah. You have those kind of customers. And so there's just a lot of, you do have to have certain things available. You have to be able to meet the customer where they want to be met.
That's a word right there.
That's it.
100%.
Yeah, it's just getting ready to ask the question. Do you think that sometimes it's hard for some folks to overcome? I find it to be twofold. I'd be curious you guys' thoughts. I find, like, when we've discussed these topics, sales and marketing, with people, I think that one approach that we've taken is to become educators to say spend more time on a customer acquisition. Because it's worth it to educate. Because some people just aren't comfortable asking questions or don't want to feel dumb, or they don't, because if they don't know,
a shed customer.
Yeah. You know, for me, it's more B2B. So
Right,
like if we're talking, I'll use marketing. I hate to do plugs all the time in every episode, but
do not plug your own business on your own show, Shannon. Let's not do that.
I just don't want to overwhelm people with it constantly. But my thoughts is like, we want to spend the time to educate, because I think you have to meet people where they are. And like you said,
Absolutely.
Mark, you might not know what to ask sometimes. So we just want to create an environment where somebody says, ask how you know to say it.
Yeah.
You know, I like to use a biblical analogy here. I heard my pastor one time say, I said, sometimes I don't know what to say to the Lord. And I said, all I can do is cry. And he said, that's good, because the Holy Spirit can discern your tears. And I was like, whoa, that changed my life.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know what to say, like with my words, they're not enough. Well, sometimes it's that way just in not understanding something. I don't know about mechanics. My dad can take a transmission apart and put it together. But if I had to explain it, I'd be like, the doohickey on the thingamajig, how does that go? Yeah. So like I have to meet him where I am on his understanding of it. It's far superior. And I think it's that way with shed sales, marketing, you name it, whatever it is. I mean, I think you just kind of meet the person where they are. Yeah. And that creates
And going to the rest of your question, some customers are not comfortable just completely over the phone. And so
they want some documentation of the conversation in text. Is that what you're talking about? Or
no, they want to see the sheds.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They want to see the sheds. So we do have that where the guys say, hey, I've got a customer, but they really want to see the sheds. I've given them the address. They're going to show up. And so we have that collaboration between the sales team and us here at the shop, to where they'll send a customer. And sometimes all the customer needs is to come here, look around. They're like, I'm ready to, here's my card. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a little bit of that. They're with all the scams,
comfort level
scams and stuff going on over the phone, they want to be sure that they're speaking to somebody that's not going to scam them. That it's an actual business. And so some of that we do have, to where people will come here, see the sheds, and finish their transaction here, or even sometimes recently I had to be in Austin. Customer just absolutely talked with him many times, but he just wasn't sure about pulling the trigger. He knew he could probably fit a certain size in, but he really wanted another size, and how could we do it, and all that kind of stuff. And all it took was for me to show up to his house and measure and say, okay, you can do this and this here. And he's like, okay. Well, actually, he did say he wanted to see the sheds yet. So then he drove here after I showed him what he could get down there. Then he drove up here, and he's like, here's my check. Yeah. You're like,
for you salespeople out there, Austin's an hour and a half away from where Mark is right now. Don't be afraid to get in that truck and go close the deal if you need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of value there in going and meeting the customer. And not only that, sometimes you kill a couple birds with one stone, right? Like you can see that they didn't consider that 14 wide won't fit there. Yeah. Or you can't get it in with a mule or something. Yeah. So a lot of times there's a lot of value that you save a lot of struggle for your driver.
Well, and we ended up upselling the customer because I went there.
That's right. I was going to say, yep.
Because I went there and he was like, I think I'm going to be able to get an 8x20 in here. And then I start measuring, and I'm like, let's measure here from your overhang of your roof. Like, I hadn't thought about that. He was measuring here. And then he was worried about his air conditioner, but his overhang was actually creating a bigger problem than that. Mm-hmm. So we ended up selling him an on-site build, a 10x20 instead of an 8x20.
Beautiful.
And so it was more in line with what he wanted, but he wasn't sure that everything would work out. And so by going there and measuring and showing him where and how and everything, then
larger ticket item
for
you guys, and he was happier.
He was happier, absolutely.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
What's your advice to a dealer who says, well, I don't know, I was approached to sell these sheds. They brought me a bunch of sheds. I got some marginal training, some minimalistic training. I know we could say, probably go farther on that. I'm just trying to be.
We got the real world experience here, baby.
I'm trying to stay very topical. Assuming that they don't receive much and they say, hey, I'm just going to sell what walks in the door. I'm not super excited about learning more. What would you say to that dealer? Are you a dealer who sells multiple products at your shed lot? Are you tired of sifting through clunky or overcomplicated softwares to simply sell a product? If so, it's time to call Cal. Consumer Aligned Logistics is the affordable, simplified, and scalable solution for your shed, carport, or even RTO company. We are partnered with Idea Room and Shed Pro for configurators and have multiple RTO partners to choose from JMag to Heartland to Shed Geek Rentals and Scott's RTO. And if your partner isn't listed here, just ask. We are happy to add more. Give us a call at 425-359-3279 or visit calcanhelp.com. That's CALCANHELP.com.
You know, you're supposed to be the expert. You need to know all there is to know about sheds. And I'll tell customers, I don't think my product is a good fit for you because I know you're needing something else. And I'll be blunt, and I'd rather tell the customer that because I know what they're looking for and I know my product's not going to fit that. And I'd rather do that. But you're the expert. You're the one that can figure that out for the customer. You have to ask good questions so that you can give good answers. And then when you know, but you need to know your product. And so much of it, and this going back a number of years, if you're competing, if you have a dealer that's competing against another dealer just up the street, chances is the other dealer is not educated. He might know about his sheds, maybe, but when the customer shows up and you explain to them, you know, we use this specific type of runners, and this is why we use them. We use these specific floor joists, and this is why we use them. And we use this flooring because of it having this warranty. And, you know, and you start explaining all of that. You said, but up the road, they didn't even explain me any of this. Now, you just created a whole bunch of value that price doesn't matter anymore. Because you created value in your product by explaining what it actually is.
Yeah, that education.
The education. And now they're more likely to buy from you because you knew what your product actually is instead of just saying, well, it's a shed. It's a 10 by 20. And I don't know, what warranty does it have? I think the company offers 3-year warranty, 5-year warranty. What about this material? It looks solid. I stomped on it, and my foot didn't go through. That does not create any value.
That's right.
But when you know everything about your product, your customer is going to get a lot. In their mind, it's going to be a lot more valuable because you know what you're selling.
We had a sales guy that worked for us one time. He was a young guy, and I thought it was very clever. His line was the same thing every time whenever somebody showed up. He would just go out to greet them, and he would say, looking for a shed? And they would be like, yeah. And he'd be like, well, so let me ask you a question right off the bat. Are you looking for just any old shed, or are you looking for something that'll really stand up over time? This is real simple.
Yeah.
Really simple, because it started like creating the emotion in them to begin to think about budget without you asking a question even about budget.
Yeah.
It was like, do you just want just any old thing? I mean, you're just looking for just any old thing, or are you wanting something that's, that'll stand up a little bit more over time? Mm-hmm. They're always going to answer, I want something that's going to stand up more over time. I always want quality. They also want lower price, right? They always want lower price. But you'll never have anybody say, charge me more and take some of those 2x4s out of there if you would, because I don't need all that. It's a natural thing for people. So it's just in the questions that you ask to get them prepared.
Absolutely.
I'm curious in your like the way that you're doing things with your the folks that you've employed, is that scalable? Is that something you want to scale? Is that something that you want to do more of? You want people calling you and saying, "Hey, Mark, we want to talk with you about this idea." Do you welcome that?
Absolutely. You know, that's one thing. That's kind of the long-term vision on that is, you know, being able to provide that service to other companies. You know, when I started here in 22, well, would have been back in 21 when I started managing the company here and looking at trying to figure out the marketing aspect and how to grow and how to do these online sales. I struggled so much not knowing how and the processes and it's taken me so much and we had a small company. Uh-huh. And so it was difficult. I didn't have somebody to handle marketing. I didn't have somebody to a sales director, you know. And so that to me for a small company is extremely difficult to get started and to set up that team, whether it's the training, whether the whole process that goes through there. It's very difficult for a small one-man shop to get started. Yeah. And so that is something that's kind of stuck with me. And, you know, if there are other companies out there that are like, you know, we would like to have some more sales, but don't necessarily want to go out and just set up a whole bunch of lots, but we want to stick to manufacturing because handling dealers is a whole other, that's right. That's a whole other thing. Yeah. And so that is something that we would like to grow with time is grow with other manufacturers as well.
So if somebody does want to know how to get a hold of you, you want to throw an email out or phone or whatever? I mean, I hope they give you a call, man.
Yeah. My phone number is 254-401-0020. That's my direct number. You can shoot me a text or call me. And my email is Marcos, Marcos, at shedsmarketplace.com.
Perfect. Well,
nice.
Maybe we can throw some of that stuff in somewhere, but
sure.
We'll figure it out.
Well, I think it's an interesting proposition when you think about wanting to start manufacturing your own sheds, and you could potentially hire someone for X amount of percentage to take care of your sales versus, you know, building 100 sheds and putting them on 5 different lots, you Absolutely. Know, within a 100-mile radius.
You can save a lot of money and put it into your online leads and capturing those leads versus putting it into hard inventory. Yeah. Especially if you're selling mostly custom built sheds, which you know what, it keeps your shop rolling too. Yeah. You know, the more work you got coming in, and it's not just inventory. So, you kind of minimize your risk, I think, to some extent. I feel like we've talked about this before, so we're not letting the cat out of the bag on this, but it seems very common. I mean, to see this across, I've talked with so many shed manufacturers, and none of them would maybe say this to hurt their base or their dealer network. But I think it's a very common statement, maybe not with all. I've seen some exceptions to the rule. But to be like, hey, say we got 15 dealers, 15 dealer network, or 30 or 45. It seems pretty common that you always have like number 1 and 2 competing. You know, if you've got 15 of them, there's some go-getters, and number 1 and number 2 is always in competition. Or maybe this guy wins 7 out of 10 times, or this guy wins 7 out of 10 times. And then you usually have, you know, the 3rd through 10th dealer. They're always fairly interchangeable, sell probably about the same amount. It's fairly interchangeable, create about the same amount of energy, take up about the same amount of energy, require about the same amount of like work. And then those last 5 are always kind of like, we always need to be working on those. They're underperforming. They're not bought into the vision. They don't see the value or whatever it is. And of those 5, there's probably 1 or 2 you might even should have let go a long time ago that you just refuse to, because definitely I've noticed in the Anabaptist community, this is something that I think is amazing, but they'll hold on longer trying to see it as something more than business, that there's a relationship attached to it. And it's hard to to just end that relationship. So what they'll do is hold on to it to the point where it costs them money or costs them patience or peace or whatever it is. So some of those guys will also fit this same mold where, say, 7 out of those 15 sort of embrace the idea of online sales, whatever you want to call that, e-commerce, online sales, marketing, all of these different things. And maybe there's like 6 or 7 of them that are like, I do well without it.
Yeah.
That's where this is a service that could come in and say, I can serve that radius. Let's don't disrupt your 7 that do this, but I can service the 7 who don't, maybe. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it can, when you're working with dealers, one of the things that has been my experience, having dealers that are very territorial. And it can be, Travis and I, our locations are, 15, 20 miles apart?
20 minutes apart.
20 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Travis has sold a shed right down here, like a mile this way, and a mile over this way.
Yep. And Marcus sold a shed to the fire station right beside us.
Two of them,
actually, And so, but I love it, man. I mean, it's, you're like, I'm sure when Mark saw that, he was like, oh, man, I wish we'd have gotten that. When we saw that he sold to the fire station, we're like, oh, man, I wish we'd have gotten that one. Well, you know what? Merit and actual sales skill and talent. Let the chips fall where they may. Let everybody play. Put everybody on the field, and let's see who the winners are.
Yeah,
I think is a better way to run a business in this industry than to have everybody block off territory, and then now you've got a territory blocked off to a guy who's selling $15,000 a month.
Yeah, and the interesting part of it, most of those customers that you sold to right close within a mile here never stopped in to get a quote.
Yeah.
Never stopped in.
Yeah.
And so, I know with the one right beside you, they had to get 3 quotes, and they ended up. I had sold them the first one here already a year or 2 prior, and so they came here first, and then Lori called me like, "Hey, did you give them a quote?" Like, yeah, I did give them a quote. So we competed on that last one, but honestly, it sometimes there's a customer that he might work in Waco. So for all I know, he's leaving here at 6 o'clock, and I'm never open when he comes by.
Yep.
And so he gets off on his lunchtime, and he goes to see these guys. So, I don't know, was that maybe an online lead that happened to see their social media and didn't see mine?
Yep.
A lot of that. And we're not competing.
No.
We're not competing because I know there's sales out there for everybody. And if we take that scenario and like, oh, you're going to sell into my territory, man.
I feel like I see that a lot with companies who there's almost not a synergy among their dealer network because they see themselves as competing with each other because of the territory.
Yes, absolutely.
But then they almost are maybe more aggressive internally than they are with even other competitors of other buildings, which I would even go far beyond that and say you're selling storage, so arguably you're somewhat competing with like the traditional storage unit.
Storage. Oh yeah,
mini storage. You're not even really competing. That's the business you're trying to get. But if you don't get paid on that account, that seems to be the drawbreaker, right?
Yep.
Where all of a sudden it's like that's the line in the sand.
Well, and it comes back to talking about knowing the value that you provide to the customer. So even when you have, whether it's within the company or whether it's with your competition down the street, you have to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to provide a service. And so you may not fit, whether it's your personality. You came and you talked to somebody and they did not like you.
It's as simple as that sometimes.
Sometimes
I just didn't vibe with that salesperson as much
Yeah.
as I did with the salesperson down there. It's literally, that's what I like about, because God created us all unique and
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And that's your edge. And I
Yeah.
think we forget that in this industry a lot. We think, oh, well, I'm going to start offering this. I'm going to start offering that. I'm going to do RTO with this company. I'm going to do software with this company. That's going to give me an edge.
Or I'm going to give discounts.
I'm going to give discounts. I'm going to do, 3-day deliveries or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are all pieces of the pie maybe, but man, it's you.
And it may be one thing that convinces that customer to purchase, but generally speaking, it's like you said, it's you. Like by and large, you're going to see more success on a large scale by just continuing effort, staying consistent, embracing, challenging yourself to be better, not challenging, the competition.
Yep.
Oh, I lost it because they offer financing. We don't offer financing.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost it because they've got wood
losing
buildings. We
mindset
got
right
metal
there.
buildings.
Yep.
I lost it because we're too expensive. I lost it because I don't have the support from my network. But ultimately it's you. It's you and that customer.
Yep.
And if you're hungry, you'll find a way to close. It's an interesting dynamic. It really is. These companies could invest all of their time, effort, and maybe even money, Mark, into a system where they capture all the online sales, and the dealer network only becomes for walk-ins, right? And I noticed that a lot of them don't do that. They really appreciate their dealer network, and they say, "Hey, we'll even take the leads that we get you, and we'll disperse them to the appropriate location." And I've noticed even some dealers still yet don't embrace that because maybe it's not a primary income for them, or I don't know. Digital Shed Builder is an online shed configurator that strives to provide incredible visual quality, fantastic customer service, and an amazingly low price point, making it a perfect fit for any shed dealer looking to increase their online sales. Digital Shed Builder is simple to use, taking less than 5 minutes to integrate on your site. The Get a Quote feature streamlines your sales process, showing you exactly what your potential customers need. They offer a highly customizable experience that accurately represents your brand and unique shed offerings, working with you directly to set up everything you need in a configurator. With no extra startup cost, no lengthy contracts or commitments, and no hidden fees, Digital Shed Builder has been created with quality, simplicity, and affordability in mind. I feel like this conversation could go on for a long time, and we're probably going to have to wrap up pretty soon, but we should do a part 2 on that specific. Like, we need to really dive into that a little bit deeper. Like, why do some companies, what are they supposed to do when they get these leads and they send those leads over to a dealer and the dealer's uninterested in nurturing them?
Correct.
What are
That's a
you
problem.
supposed to do as a manufacturer if they don't embrace?
How do you hold them responsible to do the follow-up? How do you teach them to your sales process and to do it in a certain way when it's just a dealer? It's not it's not an employee.
Yeah.
My employees, I can tell them, look, you have to train this much. You're going to do it this way. This is your script. This is how you're going to present the product. This is how we do it. With a dealer, it's a lot more difficult. So, recently I spoke with a manufacturer in Indiana, and I asked him, because this is one of the conversations I have when I speak with a manufacturer is, what's your contract with your dealers? Because that's the first thing. Because I've had some manufacturers like, we can't because we have exclusive, so you're not going to be able to sell into within 15 miles of wherever we have a dealer location. And I'm like, well, that's kind of difficult because I never know where my lead's going to come from. And so I don't want to be spending ad money to get these leads, and then I end up having to give the commission to that dealer just because it has a location there. And so he said, I don't play favorites with anybody. Whoever puts in the work gets the commission.
Yeah.
You know, he might talk to
Love
three
that.
of my dealers, and whoever is the one that's able to convince him to buy it, that's the person that gets a commission.
Very capitalistic approach. Very, you know, hey, you put in the work, you get the reward, kind of.
And so it doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't matter, you know, whether it's in one territory or the other. You know, if we can partner with someone like that, you know, we're not out there to compete. Like I've this scenario with Travis, you know, we don't compete with each other.
Yeah.
You know, our pricing sometimes he might sell it more expensive. Recently, I've done some to where I think he's gotten some quotes out cheaper than what we have. But you know that we're not competing. We're just selling a product
I
to
would
whoever we can.
I want to interject there and even add, even if you are competing, I know there's a lot of talk of collaboration, and we should do those things. We've done some of those things ourselves. But if Travis was competing with you and doing a better job, it does make you internally reflect your own systems and processes and get better.
Yeah, it
and
should.
I've noticed that there's, I'll go this far to say this, I don't think I'll get in too much trouble, but I've noticed there's some established, there's almost a, you know, gatekeepers. I've heard that term used. There's gatekeepers, right? There's the establishment who says, this is the way it is. We've built the business off of this. You're interrupting that. I've even gotten some pretty, I don't know, interesting comebacks for just creating conversation about education on the podcast. I've even had people, you know, to me personally, either email or through the rumor mill, whatever you want to look at it, say, you know, like, you know, just talking about that, just the fact that you talk about it creates conflict.
Yeah.
Right? Because if people aren't taking the time to educate themselves, you're taking the time to do it. And I'm like, man, we're just having a conversation. You know, like that's it. And if people benefit from that, I think a more educated person makes a better decision. So there is and always will be, you know, the aspect of trying to educate through conversation. And like no one can stop that. Like you should be able to sit down and have conversation. I mean, I tell them like, what, you know, it sounds like book burning to me. Like I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with whoever if they're willing to, because it creates, in the spirit of cooperation and goodwill, it creates good thought, and it makes us better. If you were if you were competing with Travis and you're like, man, he won that fire station contract because of some particular thing he did, his TikTok presence or whatever it is, or like he said, he just.
But I still get to build it though.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark wins either way. Mark wins either way in this
you know,
case.
it's just one of those things that makes you it makes you go back to the drawing board and sharpen your own skills.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I would say that you you know, try to treat other people the way you want to be treated in terms of like, if you have a relationship like me and Mark have, and you should do that anyway, but I'm talking about just specifically here. And yeah, there's plenty out there. And if you're listening to this and you find yourself, trying to protect and put boundaries around and keep information and not wanting to have conversations come out, just, you know, ask yourself some questions about how effective that's been for you and how's that going, you know, and is that a good strategy for the next 5 to 10 years? Because you know, the thing that I find the most fascinating and the most comical about this industry is when we don't have is when we think this one thing that we're not going to tell anybody is our secret sauce to a $50 million company, you know. And there's just no secrets out there. There's no secrets, really. I mean, we have the World Wide Web at our fingertips.
Yep.
If there's any secret in this industry, it's execution.
Yeah.
How good can you execute on every day, showing up day after day, whether the weather is nice, whether sales are good or sales are not good.
Yeah.
How well can you execute in that? That's the secret sauce, if there is any secret sauce in this industry.
No way to improve on that, man.
Side note: I don't know if this sound's coming through, but I think we're loading up a shed out here. I don't know if you hear the mule in the background or the truck, but if you hear that, that's what's happening.
Come on, Mark. Are you really going to do business while we're doing a podcast? Gosh, I can't even believe it.
Yep.
How thoughtful. I'm just kidding. I think Mark took me serious for a minute. I was like, I'm just kidding. Don't tell them to stop
I'm just looking to see which of our awesome drivers are out there.
See who's out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got
One
you.
thing, this comes up on the Shed Sales Professional page, since we're, talking about sales here. lot of people ask how are you paying your salespeople, or what's the best way to pay salespeople? What's your thoughts on that, Mark? How do you pay your salespeople? Do you have any? Have you tried different models? What's your preference? What are your thoughts on how salespeople should get paid in this industry?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. So, here I'm dealing with a complete different, maybe a complete different problem than a lot of people here, because most of my sales guys are in a third world country. So I have salespeople that live in a country where the minimum wage is $330 a month.
Wow. U.S. dollars?
U.S. dollars.
Wow.
I'm not paying them that. I'm paying them quite a bit more. El Salvador has a lot of call centers, and so that is a big. It is a big industry there, and they do pay. I lost a salesperson last week that he was going to come work for me, and he's like, "Man, my commissions are just too good over where I'm at." Because he's consistently, he's already doing fairly well with his commission. He's making over $1,500 a month, and so he's like, I don't want to go and start over.
Yeah.
And so I've had guys making quite a bit more than that already, but there's that learning curve. And he knows he's not going to come in and be making that first month in, and so he said, I got a family, so I'm working with a base salary plus commission but it's a little bit different than what I would have to pay here.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
And base salary, do you feel like that's still that base salary plus commission? Do you deal with any kind of lack of motivation if it's not straight commission? Do you feel like that helps the team because it gives them some base and some comfort as their comfort, if you want to use that word? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, for me, people in El Salvador, I could maybe get one every once in a while by going just straight commission, but for the most part, the people they've been grown up very poor, and so they want that security.
Makes sense.
And so at first, I had set a base salary that was fairly decent, but it was still, I had a hard time hiring with that base salary because I thought, with commission we're gonna still
blow it out of the water.
Blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust that.
Okay.
I had to adjust
bring it up a little bit.
Bring it up a little bit more, just to bring it more in line to what my living expenses are paid.
Gotcha.
What I'm going to make on commission is going to help me buy a house. It's going to help me buy a vehicle. That kind of stuff, because they want that security.
Yeah,
there's almost a honeymoon period there. I think a lot of times, even in the U.S. with that base and commission, I think a lot of people advocate for commission only, and some people even want that only as they begin to do well. But I think sometimes there's a honeymoon period where you're learning the product, learning how to sell the product. Absolutely. And you just have to have a little bit of security. That's because if you went straight for commission right out of the gate, well, it's kind of like getting thrown to the sharks faster. You just almost need some time to learn that product. And if you're leaving a job and coming over, you definitely struggle with that. We found that to be very successful, offering a base plus salary. Yeah, it works really good. Guys, we're an hour in. We could have another hour conversation. Everybody always says, how on earth can you talk for an hour? And I'm like, man, how could we not talk for 2 or 3?
We've already spent 3 hours talking.
It's craziness, isn't it? Real quick, because I do this with everyone else, before we get out of here, do you have any questions for Travis or myself? Podcast questions, faith questions, shed questions, family questions, marketing questions. I don't care, whatever comes to mind that you might be curious about, in full disclosure, that you would want to ask. Since Travis is co-hosting with me, I feel obligated to include him in this.
Fire away, man. I'm open game, open season.
What questions? And if you don't have any, that's fine. We didn't prepare you for this. Just curious, do you have any?
What's your next venture?
Oh. Edit time. Are you talking to me or Travis?
Yeah, you.
Well, Like,
We need to get Diana in here to answer this question.
Got a little bit too deep on that.
No, you didn't. I'm transparent, so like I want to keep it that. I'm really starting to eyeball the idea of consultation. There's a lot of guys who do good consultation, but I'm almost wondering, can we organize that in a way that creates more structure and more valuableness? So like there's certain people in this industry that offer a lot of value, whether it be in sales, marketing, manufacturing, hauling, just you name it. They have specific expertise in particular areas. And it would be really good to be able to tap into that in a collaborative effort for whenever someone's coming on and they're like, I'm starting a shed company, but I'm really weak in this area. Absolutely. Oh, we've got a person who's really strong in that area. So like we want to collaborate for success.
Absolutely.
And let's bring them in. So I've really, really been thinking about that. But I'm so busy. I feel like there's only so many legs to the table of the Shed Geek brand that we can really create.
Yeah.
And the podcast sort of stands on its own. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. But in venturing into the marketing and RTO side, I feel like consultation's left. And then I feel like I don't know if I want to go further than that. It takes a lot of your time in your day. And I want to make sure I'm effective in everything I'm doing.
Yeah, I think Travis and I had a discussion a little bit about this here a couple weeks ago, and we touched on some of this earlier on the podcast. But when you're starting, I felt this back when I started hauling. Okay, what do I need to do to legally haul sheds? Well, I need a DOT number. You need this number. You need that. You need this insurance. What do you need? And man, you can get faced with whether, well, go talk to another hauler. Well, the other haulers that I know are working for the same company, and they feel that I'm going to take over, so they don't want to share much with me. Yeah. And so I face some of that in that aspect. And whether it's running a shed business, or how do you market, or how do you sell, like trying to get some of that collaboration. Sometimes like, oh, but you're going to be my competition. I can't tell you because that's my secret sauce or whatever. And so I would find something like that very beneficial for somebody getting started. And like you said, there's certain aspects where you need somebody's input that has done this or can at least point you in the right direction. Because that's something that I have struggled with over the last 3 years is in certain aspects, how and where, and I end up having to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice to have that available. You have some tools available. We like to think that the podcast it adds value to the industry through having conversation. I mean, obviously you have the Shed Builder magazine, Garage Shed Carport Builder. You have the trade shows to go to. You have the shed hauler events to go to. It would be nice to see, I don't want to take anything away from it here because I think it's great to go to, but like going to the expo, you know what I mean? Like we've said for years, it's like a family reunion, right? And it's really cool. But it's, you're capturing more, how do I say this? The vendors are there to kind of like show you their products and services, but I wonder if a more informal event for like manufacturers that would exist that did specific trainings. Or I think about my buddy John Feely, and he's got like this master class up there with Shed Academy where he brings new people into the industry off the street, teaches them how to build on site, and he does a master class through videos, and it's really cool. But would things like that be necessary, I guess is what I'm saying. There's a lot that I think it still has to mature, and I do think some of the shed industry is probably going to be, I think that's where we're going to see like some saturation of like people selling because they don't want to go to that next level, and it's easier to just get out, and not embrace that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right. It's just they don't want to learn about all these different details like CRMs and SEO and all that. They're like, what? That's not what I tried to do. I tried to build a shed or haul a shed or build, sell a shed. Right. I didn't know all that was going to be part of the business, and I don't want to embrace it. So maybe they'll just get out. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I hope I answered your question. And yeah, that's kind of. What about you? You got anything going in particular, like in next adventure?
You know, we're right now, honestly, just trying to navigate the slow period in sales right now, and you know, I want to continue. There, I haven't squeezed, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist like this, which to my detriment. But I haven't squeezed all the juice I want to squeeze out of the one location we're at right now. I do want to open up more locations. You know, just continue to grow our online presence, grow our social media. I would love to do I'd love to do a podcast with customers,
Yes.
To tell their stories, especially people that we sell buildings to that are business owners. That's kind of on the dream board wish list. I just, you know, that's probably down the road a little ways, but I always enjoy co-hosting this with you and chatting it up. But I
wish you'd do more B2B, man. Like, I would love to have you on here more.
What do you mean?
I like doing one with like a podcast with customers would be great, but I'd love to have you on here more. I think you add a lot of value, and you mimic a lot of the characteristics that I see in myself, and I feel like you'd be just a great fit to it.
Well, that's super kind of you. I always enjoy it. So yeah, I mean, that's really it. Just you know, right now I don't feel like the Lord's got anything else for us right now. I feel like we're where we're supposed to be. I feel like in this season, this is continue to grow farm and yard, and continue to do that is, you know, I've got a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit in me. I look around, I see, man, what if I do this, or what if I did that, or go here, go there, you know, and like, you know, you guys have that too, and I just haven't had anything come into my life, or haven't had the Lord say anything like, man, I want you to go over here right now, or I want you to go over here. And I feel like right now it provides for our family. It's a great service to the community, and that's what it's doing right now.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. So nothing monumental on the horizon. This is going to be the year of kind of back to the basics for us, grinding it out, trying to grow it, and you know, this slow period has really brought on another level of like gratitude of every day that you get to be in business is a beautiful thing. Yeah. If you enjoy the business that you're doing, and it's not you know, don't take it for granted either. You know, you don't wake up and there's no expectation. You don't deserve any of the sales. You don't wake up and say, I deserve X amount of sales today. Every sale you make is you're grateful for it. You're thankful for it. And now you can work for whatever you want. But I heard someone say last night that if you can have a mindset of you don't deserve anything. Just because you're in business doesn't mean you deserve to have a successful business. Just because you do marketing doesn't mean that you deserve a bunch of leads to come from that. Just because you open the door every morning doesn't mean that you deserve people to walk in and put their credit card down on the table. Now, you can work for all those things. You can get better to create those opportunities. But basically coming from that mindset of, you know, gratitude and a level of high service, low expectations, high service, and really, you know, serving your fellow man. So that's it.
I like it. I think it's great, man. And I, you know, to mimic what you said, I heard somebody say one time, being offended is a choice. It's always a choice.
Yeah.
So if you're offended that things aren't working, offended something's not happening, it's a choice that you're making, because it's not standalone. It's always a choice you're making. I'm offended he did that. Offended this happened. You know, that's your choice always. But I'll tell you what, man. You want to pray us out of here, Travis? We'll go get us a bite to eat or something.
Let's do it. Let's do it. God, thanks for this opportunity to sit down with Mark, with Shannon. Thanks for each one that's listening. I pray that you would bless them. I pray that they would have a lot of joy in their heart as they work and serve their clients. I pray that you'd grant safety to the drivers, safety to the builders. I pray that you would give the salespeople great questions to ask consumers, and give them a hunger to know the product, to solve people's problems. Pray that you would be with the RTO providers, that they would do right by their dealers, do right by their customers. Thanks for all that they do for the industry, and pray that you would bless their businesses as well. And just thanks for the opportunity to be in this industry and to provide solutions for people's storage needs. And bless Shannon with the podcast, and bless Mark with his business here. In your name we pray. Amen.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and we want to say thank you to all the guests and listeners.